decided something. What have you decided? I have decided
that.
When we're born, we have a mommy and daddy, right? And then when we grow up and get married, we have children of our own. And then our children grow up and get married and have children. And so on and so on. So it's very important and very fun also to...
Hey there, you're listening to Interesting Sex Podcast, a show about who, how, where, and why we fuck. I'm Miranda, your host, and every week I get to talk to somebody about something really awesome like kink, fetish, BDSM, or anything that's not too vanilla, really. Today, we have Mr. L on. He's super amazing, and he's going to tell us about kink in the 90s. He talks about how he trained to be a dom and what that whole process is like. He talks about physical play versus mind play. And we also get to talk about cats and dolls and some other new exciting things for me. So before we get all started on that, first, got to take a really quick second to tell you guys about our new partnership I'm stoked about, Tushy. HelloTushy.com/ISP for 10% off. I got a bidet with them, and it's a very exciting experience, and my butthole has never been cleaner. So when you wipe your butt with dry toilet paper, does it remove all the shit? No, I don't think so. That's why you get little poop spots on your underwears. I think they're called skid marks, and they're not cool. If you were to get poop on any other part of your body, would you just wipe it off with dry paper? No, you would use a wet cloth to get it off to make sure you are clean. And that's exactly what Tushy is. It's a sleek bidet attachment. It clips right onto your existing toilet and sprays your butt completely clean with fresh water. And when I say fresh water, it's not toilet water. Tushy connects to the water supply behind your toilet to spray your dirty parts with clean, fresh water. It's the same water that you brush your teeth with. They're now offering free shipping, and with HelloTushy.com/ISP, you get 10% off your products. So that's exciting. Their classic bidet is only $79 with this. I know a lot of you like to do dirty things with your buttholes, so how about you clean your butthole and get yourself a Tushy? HelloTushy.com/ISP. And while you're doing your bathroom poopies, why don't you check out the book While You Were Pooping? It's an inappropriate children's book for adults. All the pictures are drawn with coloring pencils, so it looks like a 12-year-old drew it, but everyone's naked, and it's very inappropriate. So while you're pooping, your ex got laid, or while you're pooping, a dolphin got caught in a net. It goes all over the place. It's a great book, super fun. You can find it on Amazon. You can even look up the pictures if you went on Google, whileyou'repoopingbook.com, or you can find it on Amazon, While You're Pooping by the Anonymous Pooper. Okay, now back to our show. Okay, so I hope you guys are ready to learn what it was like before you had the internet as your biggest tool to find kink and get involved in the community, and all the ways that he trained into being a dom that he is now. Thank you so much. Let's open our ears, our hearts, and our holes and give a nice, warm welcome to Mr. L.
Hello.
Hi, is this Mr. L?
It is.
Hey, this is Miranda calling from Interesting Sex Podcast.
Hello, Miranda.
Hi, I'm happy that we were able to catch you today.
Well, thank you for calling.
Yeah, of course. Let's get started and just talk to you about who you are and how you identify in the world and sexually, and who you are as a human being on planet Earth.
Okay. My scene name is Mr. L. I am heterosexual, male. I am a trained dominant. I'm not a natural dominant. I'm a cuddler. And in the scene, I'm also a swinger, polyamorous.
Okay. When you say scene name, that just means within the kinky community?
Yes, that's kind of a holdover. A lot of people like to protect their identity. So we go by pseudonyms. And Mr. L was actually a name given to me by my mentor.
How does one go about getting a mentor?
Well, that's a concept that may be outdated by now. In the 1990s and earlier, all the leather clubs were underground. They were technically illegal in Virginia, so you couldn't just walk into a club. Someone had to co-sign you in, but to co-sign you in, they had to mentor you. They had to teach you the rules. They had to give you a name, and then everyone knew your name. So when you identified yourself, you could just give your scene name and you could come out, you could go in.
Okay. What kind of rules did you have to learn to go to a club?
It depends on the club, really. The ones I went to were, no alcohol, no penetration in the club. There would be one one room for food, one room for play. Dominants and submissives were property of each other. So doms could speak to doms, subs could speak to subs, but a dominant could not speak to another submissive without permission. Play would go on uninterrupted as long as necessary, and you do not walk into a scene. And various things such as like the universal, the club I went to, the universal safe word was red. Things like that.
Okay. How does a submissive give you permission? Is that who gives you the permission?
Well, if you're in a relationship, yes. Sometimes the dominant would allow you to play with his submissive, but it would be the dominant would have to give permission, and the submissive would have to give permission as well.
Okay. But if you went, is it one of those places that you could go by yourself without a partner?
Yes, you could.
Okay. So then you would, are submissives there too without a partner?
Most people went as couple, either heterosexual or homosexual. So most people wouldn't walk in alone. It's interesting you say that. Single males were generally not welcome. Single females were welcome because I guess the numbers were all, you had to keep the numbers in balance. I have to go back a bit because the earliest leather clubs were almost exclusively homosexual male. Only later did women start entering the scene, and usually they entered as butch dykes. That's not a negative term in the lifestyle. Well, you had the butch and femmes in the leather scene, but it was almost exclusively a homosexual world. More and more heterosexual couples found that they liked to add a little spice to the relationship. So in the larger cities, it was easier because they had open clubs for it. But down here in the beautiful South, it was a lot more conservative. So it was still illegal and had to be well-guarded secrets.
Okay. So when you said it was the 90s when you kind of started all this?
Yes.
Okay. And so you started with the leather scene?
Well, let me give you a little bit of my kink biography.
I would love that.
Thank you. I have a brother who owns a Harley-Davidson dealership.
Sounds like a good brother to have.
Yes. So I knew about the leather scene early on. I knew that there was a lot of biker clubs.
How old were you around then?
I was probably 10, 11 years old.
Oh, when your brother had that, he's older, a lot older.
He's a lot older, yes.
Okay.
There was a lot of whispers, but I by then I knew what sex was, but I didn't quite understand the whole leather scene, except that these people like to dress in leather, and that's how they have something in common. That's where they meet. But then I started noticing that there were some exclusively male clubs. I didn't understand it, but I knew it was going on. And also, by coincidence, my mother was a waitress at a biker bar. I had a lot of connection to that scene early on. But fast forward to I get married. We live a nice vanilla life for about 8 years. One night, my wife and I go to a Thanksgiving party hosted by one of her coworkers. And during the evening, I'm in the living room talking to some folks, and my wife and her coworker go off into a bedroom, and they start. I just assume they're back there talking. Well, on the drive home, my wife says to me, "Honey, I almost kissed a girl tonight." I was fascinated because my wife had always been very prudish. In fact, she was homophobic, or at least she pretended to be. We had a conversation about it, and I said, "Is this something you want to pursue?" And she said, "Yes." I did my research, and I found out that there was an entire world of sexual opportunities out there. But as I said, it was still the early 90s. The internet hadn't taken over yet. Most meetings were still through magazines. You had social magazines, and there were social clubs. So you actually had to either meet by phone call or by sending a letter to a post office box, or you had to go to one of the clubs. Eventually learned that Richmond had several swingers clubs. In those days, there was actually some coded language. Like if you saw a bar had a couples night, that's where everyone agreed to meet. Then came the internet, and back then we had AOL chat rooms. That broke the whole scene open. You could just go in a room and chat with other couples and other people looking to meet, and it was no longer a secret.
I have a question before we go into all that. When your wife said that she wanted to explore this with women, were you immediately like, oh, hell yeah? Or I'm sure that was maybe awkward, or what did you have to go through emotionally to kind of like open yourself up to her not being like just your partner?
Oh, well, there we go. It was difficult. Well, no, I won't say it was difficult. It was interesting at first because my wife I said, she was very prudish. I said, she pretended to be homophobic. She was raised very strict Catholic.
She probably pretended to be like that because she was scared that she was like that. So she was telling herself she wasn't.
You got it exactly. Yes. Of course, from a male point of view, it's like, oh, I have no problem with her exploring women. The awkwardness came when she wanted to try other men too.
And you're like, what happened to the sweet prude I married?
Yes. So it's like it was a change, but not an entirely uncomfortable change, because I got to see a side of her that she didn't show to me. I guess she had this opinion of what a wife had to be, and she played that role. She's a wonderful person. I mean, I love her. I've loved her now for 31 years.
You're still together?
Oh, yes, very much so. I got to see her in a different way. I enjoy seeing more of her mind, more of her emotions, more the way she works. But it wasn't easy at first because guys, well, we have insecurities too. So it's like, hey, she doesn't make that sound with me.
Okay, so you were a minister before all this started.
Yes, I was. In my early years, my father died when I was still very young. So I was raised by my paternal grandfather, who was a minister.
Because your mom was working at restaurants and doing
She
that.
had she had a lot going on in her life and really couldn't take care of us. She had a lot of problems. I mean, she did not handle my father's death very well. So my paternal grandfather wanted me to carry on the family tradition of being a minister. I discovered when I was about 17 that I wanted nothing to do with it anymore.
So you were a minister, you didn't go to like college for ministry.
No, I didn't get that far. But
did you like lead services? Like
I would lead youth services every Sunday, and sometimes he would let me preach in the big church. I guess I was kind of a novelty, so he liked to put me on display sometimes.
Right. You're like, this is my grandson, and he's young, and he's so great.
Oh, he's carrying on the family tradition, and
yeah. What turned you off from it all?
My grandfather was a racist bigot of every imaginable type. And I didn't hate anyone. I just couldn't find it in my heart to hate anyone. So I moved back to Richmond, reconnected with my mom and my sister, and never looked back.
Right. And are you still religious? Are you religious at all now? Or are you like, once you left it behind, you're like, I'm not going back?
I'm a happy agnostic.
Okay, so your wife decided that she wanted to try this, and then you were like, okay, cool, I'm going to try this too. And so you started swinging.
Yes.
And then that was before you knew how to be dominant, right? She kind of was the one that introduced you into this kind of openness.
Yeah, the BDSM world was still a bit of a mystery to me. So all I had to go on was some of my early childhood memories of leather clubs, and I didn't make the connection. But I was also, heavily involved in music, and I had heard the music of Lou Reed, and I knew.
Yeah, hey babe, take a walk on the wild side.
Yeah, so I knew there was more out there, but I guess my exposure to the leather lifestyle was like a lot of people. I thought it was a joke. I didn't take it seriously at the time. I just thought it was satirical to me.
Right, like a fashion or something.
Yeah.
Like clothes and.
Yeah, to me it was something like right out of television. You know how television portrays it. It's either a joke, it's something to be afraid of or laugh at.
Right. Did you decide that you wanted to learn how to be dominant because you wanted to be able to do things with her that she enjoyed with other people that you weren't able to offer her?
Well, it's funny you mentioned this. I discovered the BDSM world quite by accident. I was in an AOL chat room one time. I got a private message one night from a guy who said, hey, send me pictures of your wife's feet.
Did that come out of nowhere, or were you guys already talking?
Out of nowhere. No, we weren't talking. Just out of nowhere. And I said, okay, I've had people ask for pictures of every other part of my wife's body, but except feet. So I didn't understand. And so I said, well, that seems kind of harmless. I said, hey, honey, are you up for this? She said, sure. It sounds fun. So I sent him pictures of her feet. And then he told me that his name was Tim, and he wasn't into swinging. He was into BDSM and fetish. And I said, okay, tell me more. I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it, but I was willing to learn. He says, hey, let's meet at a local coffee shop.
Oh, so it's like a local chat room.
Yeah, it was Richmond, Virginia couples. So I think that was the name of the chat room. I can say that now. It's been like 24 years ago. So we met at the coffee shop.
Had he sent you pics yet?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know what he looked like, but when he walked in the place, I knew who it was. There was no mistaking this. He was about 5'2", had the shoulder-length blonde hair. He looked like Iggy Pop, but the lady who was with him was this 6'2" goth goddess. And when they walked in, I said, "Oh, this has got to be them," and it was. And I said, "Hi."
That is an interesting couple.
So I right away said, "Hi, I'm the guy you're looking for." And so we sit down, we have coffee, and we start talking. And this guy has no filter. Tim had no filter at all. We were in public, and he was saying the most outrageous things you could imagine in a full speaking voice. He was talking about what BDSM was. He said it's more than just spanking and beatings. It's about domination. It's about ownership. It's about etiquette and respect. I was dismissive at first. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. This doesn't interest me.
Like these two wackadoodles.
Yeah, I said, and I was like, turned to my wife and said, honey, let's go. She says, wait. She didn't want to go. She wanted to hear more. So I said, okay, I think we found something else she likes.
Yeah.
We were sitting in there, the four of us, at a little circular table, and there was a lady drinking her little espresso on the table next to us. And he says, for example, this girl right here says, you could fuck her, but you wouldn't own her. And I saw her eyes get so big. I said, if my wife's interested, I'm interested. So I talked to him about, well, are you willing to mentor someone? I said, my wife is very interested in what you have to offer, and I want to learn. So he said yes. So for about a year and a half, we were the closest of friends. I was there every weekend. I cooked for him. In return, he taught me the tricks of the trade. He took my wife through a few scenes. At first, it frightened the hell out of me because he's spanking her. He's whipping her with a cane. He's zippering her. What zippering is?
I'm not.
He had about a dozen clothespins, all connected with a piece of string. And so he put these clothespins in various locations around her body, pinching the skin. She's blindfolded now. And then he takes the string and just pulls it and snap, 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 snap. And she enjoyed it thoroughly. Let's just say that. She was very much into the pain aspect. And I just didn't understand it. But I didn't need to understand. I said, if she enjoys it, then I'm going to learn it.
You sound like such a lovely husband.
Well, she's a lovely wife. Anyone who could put up with me 30 years has to be a lovely person. So he's teaching me how to spank, and my wife is not the spanking model. So we're both spanking her, and he's showing me the proper hand position. And then she's blindfolded, but she says, okay, who's the pussy hit me on the left side? So apparently she wanted it harder. I was just so afraid, see, because my father, though he died when I was still very young, one very strict rule: you don't strike a woman. You just don't do it. I told him that. I said, look, I have a major hang up about this. I can't strike a woman.
Yeah.
He said, she wants you to. I said, I know, but it's going to take more than this. And it took a long time for me to understand that there's a difference between consensual violence and non-consensual. And I just thought they were all the same. So I had a lot to learn about myself psychologically, and there are rules. I can still say proudly, I have never struck a woman without clear consent.
So when you first started, at the very, very beginning with Tim, you didn't start with spanking. How did you start in general, just to learn how to take the lead? what if somebody's listening right now that's like interested in being more dominant? Like, what would you say the very first step would be?
Well, the first step is, do you want it? Is this something you can find within yourself? Does it turn you on to be in control? Or does it turn you on to be controlled? Who are you? Find out who you are and be it. Some people want to be controlled, and some people want to be the controller.
But you wanted to please your wife.
That was my motivation.
I want to get more into what actually happens when you train to be a dom. So you said that you were there for like a year and a half, and then you were there every weekend and cooking for him. So like, I need to know what happened.
Well, let me clarify. When I began the training, I agreed to be there any weekend he wanted me there. And so I was there almost every weekend. Having a personal chef was a nice thing. I cook, but also we gave him a modeling permission so he could use pictures of us on his website. And so for a year and a half, we met almost every weekend. We were off for holidays, and if he was busy or out of town.
It kind of sounds like training for being a ninja, all that training, a year and a half every weekend cooking. Mr. Miyagi.
My wife is the one, I believe I told you, my wife is the one who really wanted me to do this because she was fascinated about BDSM. She liked the domination aspect. She liked that. So every weekend I would go to his house. He would take me through some, the toys, the ropes, and the mental play aspect of it. And sometimes we would just hang out and talk for a while. It is you compared it to like ninja training. It's a kind of a dark underground world because back in the 1990s, S&M was still illegal in Virginia. So it was a lot of discretion necessary. You didn't talk about it. The first thing we did, he borrowed my wife for a little while and showed me what caning was like. She loved it.
Tell me what caning is like.
They're an impact toy. They're hard impact, not soft impact. They will leave bruises. Some are made of like very pliable rubber, and some are made out of like solid steel. And she liked the harder ones.
Even for her first time?
Yeah. Well, my wife was a power lifter. She is very strong. She's very muscular. She's a natural masochist. I didn't know that at the time. I was worried that if she was in pain. I was worried she was hurt, but she was loving every minute of it. As she told me later, it's like that was one of the best experiences of her life. He showed me how to tie knots. He told me the first thing I should buy is a copy of Ashley Book of Knots. It's a huge hardcover book. I still have it. That book is never leaving my collection. The training progressed through safe to more dangerous. Started with bondage, then floggers, spanking, caning, some fire play. I wasn't really interested much in fire play. It's too dangerous for me. Caning was one of the last things we actually did. And paddling. Paddling is just too violent for me. I don't even like doing it. It will always leave bruises. It almost always causes some damage. The hard wooden paddles in the wrong hands can be very dangerous. It causes a lot of damage, nerve damage, causes bruising, blood clots, things like that. Some people love it. Some submissives just love a hard paddling. I guess that's something that people have to work out with their partner. What do you want? What risks are you willing to take? I guess looking back, the most valuable lessons he taught me were the mind play. Not so much the physical play was very valuable. Yes, I like that part. But it's how he was able to push buttons and get reactions from people just talking to them.
Yeah, like you said that he was like, you could fuck that girl, but you wouldn't own her.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you teach someone, or how did you learn to get to that point, and what is the difference?
First impressions are very important. If you know you're not going to be playing with someone, then you can be yourself. But if you're in an environment where you think you're going to be in a submissive, dominant environment, you don't speak. You wait. You try to read them. See what kind of reactions you're getting from them.
The silence is powerful and leaves them in suspense.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Being a mystery. Tim taught me a very important lesson. He says, do some of your submissives fall in love with you? He said, yes, they do. He said, but they don't fall in love with me. They fall in love with the image. He says, once they get to know me, they don't like me anymore. He said, women don't fall in love with friends. They fall in love with men who still have an air of mystery to them. When men lose their mystery, women are no longer interested. He said, submissives are no longer interested when all the mystery's gone.
Right, because they're always trying to figure out how to please
There's some.
them.
It's like you wouldn't do the same puzzle over and over again. He was very cynical. In some ways, it is like that. The BDSM S&M world is very intense. Maintaining that intensity is almost impossible over time because eventually you're going to have to deal with that person as a person. But that's what makes it a relationship versus just an encounter.
I want you to tell me about how you get into someone's head.
First of all, as I said, the mystery. Don't say anything. See what they want. Ask questions instead of making statements. People do like to talk about themselves, and they'll tell you a lot if you open yourself up to it. And don't judge. I'll give you an example. If I was talking to someone and I wanted to get their interest, at some point in the conversation I'd say, you know what's special about you? Never mind. They'll chase you to the ends of the earth till you tell them. Because they want to know. No, what is it? I can't say. Later, when I know you well enough, then I'll tell you. They're in suspense now. It's like, you know something they don't. Almost every dominant I know has a fake biography. They're not going to tell the truth that they're a normal person. They're going to create a fictitious character that they are. There's probably an element of truth to it. But if you're going to take on a submissive who want that worship, you're going to have to make yourself seem larger than life. Because that's what they want. They want the fantasy. It sounds a little bit fake, but the whole world is a little bit fake.
So you would say you're like a CEO instead of like a manager.
Yeah. You can make it a little element of truth, but you expand on that. Because I've never known a dominant be 100% honest about who he was.
So within this like game world that you create of like a dominant submissive, it does go from game into like real life though. Like it has to have some sort of like crossover.
The dominant definitely has separation of duties is very different. The submissive honors the dominant with their service. As my wife once said, what's a dominant without a submissive? Just an asshole who won't get his own coffee. Every dominant has to be grateful that there's a submissive willing to be his submissive. That's a great honor when someone gives you their trust. You have certain responsibilities. And part of it is to help maintain the image, because that's what they want. Moving into a relationship is different. That's when the person gets to know you. If you're at scene level, if you know you're not going to be seeing the person on a long-term basis, then you can be whoever you want to be.
And that's kind of a pre-understood thing that you're just play partners and...
Yeah, play partners is different than long-term partners. It's a fantasy world. I mean, we don't live in black leather. We put on clothes and go to work every day. We go shopping. We have normal lives. We have vanilla lives, and then we have our secret lives, and they're very different. So it's just like people who do cosplay. They're living a character.
So do you think part of it is just being quiet, coming across as strong and like proud when you're properly served? Do you think that's kind of enough for a dominant to do? Suppose
we just met at a club.
Yeah.
And you were submissive and you wanted to know, you said, hi, my name is,
Miranda. And I'm submissive.
Mr. L. So, what would you like to do? What are you curious about? Ask me anything.
I would want to know what you like to do.
I like to see a woman smile. What can I do to make you smile?
Well, I'm already smiling.
I think we can get more of that. What have you tried?
I've tried some spanking, and I really enjoyed it.
Is it something you would like to try again?
I think so.
Well, then come with me. So I would lead you to a spanking bench. I would try a few things. I would see, test your limits. I'm a sensual dominant, so I would probably start with just rubbing your back at first. Just to ask you if you're feeling all right, you feeling comfortable. And then, when you least expect it, like that. And then a little harder, each side. To change the hand position so that we can get a little more snap. And then see how you're feeling. I would listen. Listening is very important. I would like after the first, 10, 12 strikes, I would just grab your hair and just ask you, where are you right now? Get some feedback. There's a million ways to get feedback and keep stay in the moment. But then you move beyond the spanking. Like, I like to do leg scratches. I like to pull hair. I like to talk. I like to just talk right into your ear and ask you, just get you to speak. I usually carry around a small book of poetry so you can read out of it while I spank you.
Huh.
I'd like to see if I can break up that voice a little bit. See if I can distract you.
Ah.
So that's when I'd know that it's like, this is good. Like, the job of a dominant is to please. Bad dominant, you don't come back for more. Stop just a little short. Stop at 90%, not at 100%.
Yeah.
So that there's always something left to discover.
Because I know the submissive in reality has more control than the dominant because they can say stop whenever they want and they have the final say. But sometimes I wonder if it's hard for submissive because a lot of people who enjoy being submissive enjoy pleasing someone so much that it might be scary for them to ask somebody to stop or slow down because they're going to be worried about upsetting them or not being good.
Yeah, that's when I would probably say something like this. I'm going to give you 3 words: red, yellow, and green. If you say yellow, I will slow down. You say red, I will stop. And if I say green, I will go harder. We're just learning each other. And I want to make sure that you are happy and you're with me. So signals are easier because sometimes the word no and stop are a little difficult. So you say,
right.
Red.
So you also have to be really good at picking up their physical cues because if somebody is going to be scared to ask you to stop, you would check in with them first to make sure they're okay and you didn't go past that point. But what about when it's emotional? If it's a partner that you've had for a while, how do you emotionally check in with them instead of just the physical side of it, that they're doing okay?
Yeah, as they call it, catching feelings. Oh yeah, when you catch feelings, that's way worse than anything else. Yes, it's a danger. A lot of people confuse orgasm with love. Pleasure doesn't mean love. Pleasure means, pleasure. Take it for what it, at its most basic level, it's just feeling good.
Yes, and to this day, my wife and I, we practice servitude. We don't do impact scenes. We don't do violent scenes.
What do you mean you practice servitude? What does that mean?
Well, my wife is fascinated by English butlers and maids. She wants to learn how to serve. When we have guests over, she wants to serve them. She wants to serve them in a style. She wants to serve high tea. She wants to do it perfectly.
Okay. This is like the wife that you married, the one that was like, I want to be a good wife. And
yes,
that's
and it comes out in that way. And I'll allow her to serve me all she wants. I benefit, but also I'll take care of her when she needs it. As long as I draw breath, I'm going to love her.
Does she call you things like sir at home when she's serving you, or what kind of fulfillment do you think?
Yes, if we're scening, yes, she likes to do that. She calls me sir or, well, Lord. Yes, my Lord. Or she still likes the English style. Tim told me that the most important psychological fact of human existence, all relationships are power exchanges. Someone is calling the shots, and someone is willing to have the shots called for them. But it's all voluntary. As long as it's voluntary, it's fine. But
right. So something that we talked about a little bit before this interview is what brought you into sexuality in the first place was a little bit kinky to start.
Yes. It's a funny story, but there I was watching Batman, the 1965 Adam West Batman show, and Julie Newmar's Catwoman was on this episode. Suddenly, I noticed that a part of my body was getting firm and growing. I'm saying, why is that happening?
Yeah.
I use it as a joke, but I say that's the day I discovered I was heterosexual.
Right.
Ever since then, if I see a woman wearing cat suit, cat ears,
oh God,
I get aroused.
So like on Halloween, you got to stay inside or you're walking around with like a tent in your pants.
Yeah, that's one of my fetishes. That was my first display of a woman who wasn't mom or sister. Do you mean women look like that? It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, well, you gotta admit, Julie Newmar was a beautiful woman, and she was a dancer. So it's like she had the cat moves down perfectly.
Right.
And also, one of the earliest fetishes my wife enabled me with was, see, my sister collected dolls. I thought they were beautiful. They were beautiful examples of, it's like feminine beauty. So she dressed like a doll for me. And she even played the character. She had these little doll shoes. She had a little string attached to her dress that if you pulled it, she would say one of like 4 different phrases. And she never broke character. She would stay perfectly still, and she would only walk if you told her to walk. And her makeup and hair were perfect. I mean, it was beautiful. I still keep pictures of it around.
I think this is something that I get a little bit confused with about like kink and fetish stuff. When she's dressed like that, do you have sex or is it just a
No,
fantasy? Yeah, so that's what I think most people don't understand about kink. And I think that's a hard thing to like kind of realize that it is like sexually fulfilling, but it's not sexual at all.
that's a good way of saying it. We've never had sex while she's playing a cat or a doll character.
Oh, you never even had sex with a cat?
No, no, it's there's
That sounded like a weird question after I said it.
it's a weird, but no, it's more of a worship. I guess you could put it that way. There's a lot of people who are worshipers. They're for their fetish. They don't sexualize it. They just admire it, and they just want to be with it. It's a beauty they kind of want to surround themselves in, but not sexually.
So I'm like just trying to like, would you like have her sit on your lap and like touch her hair and play with her hair and stuff, or
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, we did that a lot. I'd
right?
brush her hair for her.
Okay.
There's some people who build a fantasy in their mind so intense when they finally realize it, all they can do is just stand back in shock that it's like, oh, this is real. It's like it's really happening. You don't have any room in your mind for sex. It's just, oh my God, this is great. It's like hearing a song that is so beautiful.
I was just about to say like going to see Radiohead,
Oh, you're
seeing Tom York like seeing Tom York live. You're just like standing in awe.
I'm glad you're a Radiohead fan too. When I first heard the opening minute of Subterranean Homesick Alien, I thought I was in heaven.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of the same way when I first saw my wife dressed as a doll. I just thought I was in heaven. This is just perfect. Well, I like to be surrounded by beauty. It's not necessarily sexual. Sexual is very different for me. My tastes are very specific that way. But fetish is different. There are some fetishists who can go into sexual, but it's a different world. It's everyone. That's what's so great about this. It's like everyone has their own way of expressing it.
Right.
Yeah. I guess my fetishes aren't they're sensual but not sexual.
Okay. And then you just happen to say that your sexual stuff is very like specific.
Hmm. Yeah.
What is that? What are your specifics?
Well, do you really want to know?
Yes, this is what the show is.
A woman with a sexy voice.
Okay.
No, honestly, it's like if a woman could sing, I'm immediately turned on.
Okay. Well, I won't sing for you right now because I have a lovely voice.
Oh, okay, that's fine. As long as you don't wear cat ears either, okay? Because I have terrible eyesight. Most of my world is through my hearing. So, so sounds arouse me far more than just visuals.
Okay.
Also, touch. I've actually had cuddle buddies for decades. These are friends. These are female friends who we don't have sex. We just hug each other and talk, and we keep that completely separate. And yeah, that's always been kind of an emotional thing for me. Um,
Okay. You just like to like snuggle and chat, but it's not like a
Yeah.
snuggle party. It's just like one person.
Right. Yes, we have had snuggle parties. I have done those before, but most times it turns into an orgy. Yeah, some people don't know where they don't stop with just the cuddling. They like to take it a little further, but I like to stop. I like to agree or beforehand.
Okay. Is that something that that you still do?
Oh yeah, I'm still very interested in that. Let's say right now we're in a quarantine, so can't do it. But as soon as it's over, I've got a lot of hugs to give.
Yeah, I know. I think we
I have
all
some cuddle
do.
dates lined up,
Nice.
and so looking forward to that.
Is there anything else that I haven't covered that you would like to chat about?
No, you've covered it well. I'll tell you the one of the scariest experiences is your first visit to a leather club.
Okay.
I joke about it, but it is a true story. It's like our first time we ever went to a leather club. Sir Tim had called ahead, told them that we were coming. It's like when you show up at this place, this warehouse in the middle of Chesterfield County, out in the woods. The guy at the door looks like Hagrid wearing a thong.
Okay.
It's like it's like you don't know if like am I walking into a horror movie or something? We went, it was fine. Everybody was really nice, and and once you're in, you feel like you're part of a community. That's I think is what's missing from today's I guess you say polyamory BDSM world. There wasn't a sense of community that we had back then. Everyone has to find their own way, but I do miss that aspect of it because we were all doing something forbidden together.
Right.
Um,
Do you think too it's because it was smaller?
yes,
It wasn't as like widespread as it is now, so people like really felt like they wanted to stick together and support each other more.
yes, everyone knew everyone. There was no we were all friends. We all knew each other. So there were no strangers. But I mean now it's fashionable. I mean you have 50 Shades of Grey. You had and before that you had Secretary. And that's when it kind of opened it up maybe too much. It
Right.
became stylish to do that instead of becoming a method of like expressing your kinky feelings toward each other. It became like, hey, all the cool kids are doing it. It's like when a band becomes famous, is it going to change them, or are they going to stay the same? It's like now that the community's open, is it going to change it, or is it going to make it better or worse? You never know. Yeah, a lot of people ask. It's like, I mean, I've been married for over 30 years now. My wife and I've been together for a long time, and just like people think, well, you haven't had sex in that so long. How do you? Says, why are you even married? It's like marriage is not about sex. As you get older, it becomes a lot more about partnership and
Right.
who's going to stay with you the rest of your life. It's not going to be about sex because believe me, it's like I'm having a resurgence, yes, but it's going to go away again. I'll tell you a sad but true story. I'm not bragging now. I'm just saying this.
Okay.
I've dated quite a bit. I've had a lot of women praise my skills in the bedroom, but they can't tolerate me outside the bedroom.
Okay.
I am no day at the beach. They thought they liked me because they liked me in the bedroom.
Right.
But they found out that as a person, I'm neurotic as hell.
Right.
So I had to find someone who could deal with me as who I am. And that's why I'm always grateful to my wife. She tolerates me for who I am.
Tolerates.
Yeah. Hey,
What a beautiful
hey,
story.
it's, well, it's like, what isn't there a song from Rent? I'm looking for someone whose baggage matches mine.
Oh yeah. I love that play. We have a lot in common.
Yeah. So that's,
I'm looking for baggage that goes with the mine.
there you go.
That's
And
yeah.
it's like that's one of the things I thought was so beautiful about the BDSM world. It still has a very large homosexual community. And I'll tell you something, you cannot be a homophobe and be in this world because you find out that all expressions of love are good. Well, the three rules: consenting human adult. The good, go with it. So,
Yeah.
but thank you for calling. Thank you for having me on
Yeah.
tonight.
I like to ask people what their bucket list sexual scenario is
Oh.
that you haven't got to do if you have a moment to
Oh.
try something else.
Well, I don't know if I can say okay, I've done pretty much everything I've wanted to do. There's some, well, can I say something I haven't had in 14 years, but I'd like to have again?
Yeah.
I haven't had a blowjob in 14 years.
Whoa.
I'd like that.
Okay.
Also, sex with a cosplayer.
Okay. Any sort of costume? Are you ready for that, kitten?
No. That has a special place for me. No kittens. No
Okay.
kittens or dolls. Lord of the Rings appeals to me.
Okay.
But
Like an elf? I never saw it, but
well, I discovered Comic-Cons are some of the most fascinating costumes I've ever seen. They take fantasy to a whole new level.
they really commit too.
Absolutely.
So there's something sexy probably about the full commitment that they give.
People who do Ren fairs. There's a certain kink element to that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking for my shield maiden, to play with one time.
Okay. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a really lovely chat and really informative. And I really liked how you kind of talked how Tim told you that all relationships are power exchange, like no matter what. And at the end of the day, it's about having someone that can tolerate you.
I hope it's more than just toleration, but I'm not. It's like, because she's very kind, she'd probably say it's more than that. But
Yes, I'm sure it is.
But thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And I look forward to keeping in touch and hearing how you're doing soon. And I really, really, really hope you get a blowjob again someday.
Thank you, Miranda.
Yeah. Have a
Good
good
night.
night. Okay, bye. That was such a great episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you learned something today. Feel free to rate and subscribe, write a review, all the things. Please tell your friends. I'm really happy to be making this podcast for you, and I'm even happier that you're listening. So thank you so much for everything. As always, I do need to take a quick second to remind everybody that we are very lucky to get to live in a time and a place where we get to have sex with who and how we want. And a lot of people are not given that right. So it's very important to take a moment to think about that. And I cannot think about anything worse than being a child who is sex trafficked. 10% of any income that comes into Interesting Sex Podcast will go to help stop sex and human trafficking. Thank you guys so much for listening. I can't wait to see you next Tuesday to find out what the pussy drags in. Oh, and thank you to the band 41, 41music.net for this really awesome song that I love. Give them some love. Peace, guys.